the joy that you're bringing back to the country.
Joyful, exuberant rally.
God, they were so mad. God, they complained about Biden being old for so long. And then once Biden finally stepped down, they're fucking mad at us for being happy that he stepped down. What the, like...
Thank you for bringing...
I'm sorry. You don't get to make this argument when Tenet Media just got caught taking $10 million from Russia. Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones lost his defamation lawsuit and had to pay like $800 million. And Fox News paid almost $1 billion to Dominion over their lawsuit. You don't get to make that argument when conservative media for the past 4 years has been repeatedly non-stop parroting exactly what Trump said. Well, behind the scenes, Tucker Carlson is saying, I hate Trump and I can't wait till I don't get to cover him anymore.
Trump is the policy president. He addresses it head on, whether it's...
Is he though? Is he? I don't know. I just watched the interview he did with Flex Friedman where he did not address any policy head on at all. And also his policy is dog shit. Like tariffs are dog shit. Ending defense monetary independence is dog shit.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing's been preposterous. Kamala Harris is a very standard, normal politician. And you guys are ignoring the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which is that Donald Trump is a lunatic. So you guys are having this conversation. This normal politician...
Listen, normally I don't side with Cenk that much, but,
oh my God,
but
she
holy
might
shit.
not be good enough. Wow, she's running with joy. That sounds like Hitler. All these kind of loony things that you guys are all saying. When the other guy's a lunatic.
We need controlled spending. We need security. We need laws to
become... controlled spending like Trump did with his tax cuts, and like he plans to do even more of. He plans to do even more tax cuts. The only way he wants to raise revenue is with tariffs, which is like the most regressive way to raise revenue ever. Trump is feared and Kamala isn't presidential. Vincent Oshana versus Cenk Uygur, and this, I don't know. Scaramucci? I have no clue who this guy is. Anyway.
Well, the summer's often a quiet time in news and politics, but the DNC's election-winning machine has been running at full throttle. A month ago, even the most passionate and partisan Democrat would have struggled to pretend that Kamala Harris is anything more than a middling vice president with dubious credentials for the highest office in the land. But almost overnight, she's been manufactured into a cultural phenomenon and a visionary.
I know Uyghurs are ethnic from China. I thought it was pronounced the same. Maybe it's not.
The one thing that I will not forgive them for is they're trying to steal the joy from this country.
The joy felt by Americans backing the Harris-Walz ticket.
We are joyful warriors.
Being joyful is part of the American identity.
The Joy Factor campaign of joy. You're talking about radical joy. It is downright joyful.
It looks like a joyous rally. It looks like a joyous occasion.
A real zeal and joy in the campaign.
The joy that you're bringing back to the country.
Joyful, exuberant rally.
God, they were so mad. God, they complained about Biden being old for so long. And then once Biden finally stepped down, they're fucking mad at us for being happy that he stepped down. What the, like...
Thank you for bringing back the joy.
Power of joy.
Hope and joy.
Can't believe it.
Incredibly joyful.
She does it all with a sense of joy.
Joy. Joy. Joy.
Joy.
Joy. Joy. Joy. Joy. Joy.
Joy. Joy.
Imagine that. American politics.
Oh, the joy. Why am I not feeling quite so joyful? Why did none of them look that joyful as they said all that? The same battery of commentators, strategists and grandees who conspired to oust the actual president of the United States, Joe Biden, are now working equally ardently over time to ensure they get to choose the next one. Will the American people swallow all this enforced joy? Can Harris withstand the scrutiny that comes with the home straight of the presidential campaign? Or will she simply dodge that scrutiny altogether after 40 days without an interview or a press conference? This is how she answered the easiest, most predictable question of all when she finally sat down with CNN.
If you are elected, what would...
This was bad for her. She should have had a way better answer to this, but like really, we're like choosing literally like the worst answer that she gave for this.
do on day one in the White House?
Because you're Brit and you don't care. That's why I don't feel exactly. Brits are incapable of it.
Oh, come on, Kamala. What does all that mean? It's just word salad. Regardless of your politics, it's not an answer to an obvious question. If Kamala's first command to her team from behind the resolute desk is do what you can to support the middle class, America's in big trouble. What her campaign is doing successfully is somehow managing to distance Harris from everything she's ever said or done, particularly in the administration in which she has served as vice president. She's apparently flipped positions on everything from the border wall to abolishing private health insurance, imposing electric car mandates, defunding the police, and banning fracking. None of it seems to matter. The message is clear. Kamala Harris is shiny, new, and nothing to do with what's happened before, either under Joe Biden or what's come out of her own mouth.
A new way forward and turn the page on the last decade of what I believe has been contrary to where the spirit of...
I don't know if I consider that lying. Biden probably did think that he was going to run for re-election. He probably didn't think there was going to be so much support for him dropping out. But Piers Morgan is a genius. I don't know if I consider him a genius.
Of course, the last 3.5 years.
Well, actually, no, he is a genius because he brought fucking Twitch panels into the mainstream. He's a genius when it comes to that content strategy.
Part of your administration.
I'm talking about an era.
You've literally been in charge for nearly 4 years of that 10 years. This is your era.
He's the vice president.
I use that pronunciation very deliberately. This woman was the vice president of the United States, is the vice president of the United States. There's actually a president who's on the beach somewhere. Well, the cabal, which united to force her boss into retirement, meanwhile, is still barely able to contain its glee.
The person who should be applauded is the president who did the most selfless thing that anybody's done since George Washington. And that's true.
No, whatever. People make their own decisions.
Absolutely they do. Absolutely they do. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for what you didn't do.
Extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, it was George Clooney with his op-ed in the New York Times and Nancy Pelosi, who apparently said to Biden, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, but you're out, sunshine. It was those two who led the campaign to get rid of it. They were the Brutuses to the Caesar. And yet now they want us to think.
Piers Morgan was the one. Piers Morgan was also saying that Biden should drop out. I don't like. I'm pretty sure I very specifically remember that. He was like, "Why are Democrats gaslighting us so much about Biden's cognitive abilities?" And now he's like, "I can't believe they made Biden step down."
Greatest is Washington, the first president of the United States, the founder of the United States.
Yeah, but
the man that many Americans think was the greatest president. Is that how anyone views Joe Biden? A man who, before he could even serve a second term, had to be bullied and shamed and humiliated out of his position as the nominee for 2024 by his own team, by his own people? There's a lot to call out about Kamala Harris and her campaign. In my view, the Trump campaign also has its problems. It's yet to regain its footing and confidence that it had when Biden was the nominee. Let's be clear, Trump destroyed Biden at that debate and was heading for an easy victory if Biden had stayed in the race. It's not quite so certain or easy now. But there's a cautionary note here for Democrats too. The last time Trump took on a woman who appeared to be surging in the polls, with the same George Clooney slamming him from a press conference at a movie festival, things didn't quite work out the way everyone expected. It may feel like it began 100 years ago, but the real race for the President of the United States begins now. Well, joining me now to debate all this, the Young Turks founder, Cenk Uygur, the former White House Communications Director, Scaramucci, broadcaster and journalist, Emily Austin, and from the PBD podcast, the commentator and self-professed angry patriot, Vinny Oshana. Welcome to all of you. Wow, I've been away about 3 weeks or so. All hell, as normal, has broken loose because all hell breaks loose every week in this race. Anthony Scaramucci, great to have you on Uncensored. We've spoken many times over the last few years about all things American politics. You posted on October the 1st, don't be surprised if Donald Trump drops out of the race.
Well, I don't think the media and government were willing to line lockstep with the to the American people. You'd have to show a lot. Well, actually, Fox News was with their fucking defamation lawsuit. Fox News was with regard to the fucking Dominion voting machines, so was OAN. But like there were a ton of after the debate, there were all the conversation shifted towards Biden stepping down. I just don't think that's true. You'd have to present a lot more evidence than we have for that.
10 million people viewed that post.
Yeah, but before the debate, I think that most people probably did think that Biden was. Even before the debate, there were plenty of people saying that Biden was too old to run a second term. But do
you stand by it? And if you do, will you accept a $1,000 bet from me right now that Trump isn't going to pull out?
Well, I'll bet you $1,000 on the election. I don't know if I'm going to bet on the pullout. I mean, he's got to drop more substantially in the polls. He's down 6 with the likely voters.
I mean, he does have a stutter.
If she opens up a lead, 12 to 15 points, he's not going to want to lose to her. He's the worst presidential candidate for the Republicans since Herbert Hoover. He's lost the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And if DeSantis or Nikki Haley was running against Kamala Harris, they'd probably be up 10 or 15. So we'll have to see. But on likely voters, he's already down 6. And I like her momentum. I understand all the issues that you're raising related to her. But unfortunately, there's only 2 choices. There's him and her. And I think I would implore people to read H.R. McMaster's book if they get a chance, because he's very honest and very objective.
Because they're better on why you should still vote for the party, because they're better on every policy issue, and they're more intelligent, generally speaking, than Trump is. They did not do Jan 6 like Trump did. Yeah. Anyway, I can't. Well, we're reacting to this, but
I mean, Anthony, if I'd asked you
$1,000 on the election.
Who do you think has lied more, Trump or Kamala? You understand? You can take Alex Jones lost the defamation lawsuit. Not Tucker Carlson, but Fox News settled their defamation lawsuit because we know they were all lying about. What do you mean it's not as ridiculous? I'm sorry. You don't get to make this argument when Tenet Media just got caught taking $10 million from Russia. Alex Jones lost his defamation lawsuit and had to pay $800 million. And Fox News paid almost $1 billion to Dominion over their lawsuit. You don't get to make that argument when conservative media for the past 4 years has been repeatedly nonstop parroting exactly what Trump said. Well, behind the scenes, Tucker Carlson is saying, I hate Trump and I can't wait till I don't get to cover him anymore.
We'll make it for charity.
I'm done on that.
We'll make it for charity. I'll take that bet.
Can I tell you I'm a liberal? Well, I'm just saying. You just said if you're a blank slate, I'm obviously going to say I never trust Fox News. Okay, good.
I don't have a vote. I don't have a horse in the race.
Okay.
I just think reality is going to kick in. And if I asked you, Anthony, before we move to the others, if I'd asked you even 2 months ago, do you think Kamala Harris would make a great president of the United States? You would have laughed out loud. Be honest.
Again, there's 2 choices in the race. I know I don't want to go back to what we had. I think it was a unmitigated disaster. He embarrassed me by supporting him, and he's actually an embarrassment on the world stage. And he doesn't even understand things like the nuclear triad. The guy is a walking disaster. And so I will take her over him. But you're right. If there were other candidates available, if you were available, Piers, you're not over 35 yet. But if you were an American citizen and over 35, I would take you.
See, this
President Biden's.
You've only got two choices.
This is really why I wanted you on the program, because
Okay, wait, hold on. I can't be telling this yet too much. I gotta make the VOD. Gotta make the VOD good.
I knew that you would flatter me in a way that I would find irresistible. Emily Austin, so look, Kamala Harris was nobody's choice, even on the Democrat side, to be president of the United States 2 months ago. Suddenly, she's apparently the great, fresh, new thing, despite the fact that she's been Biden's vice president for nearly 4 years. How can she continue to execute this tripwire of pretending she's not responsible or accountable for everything that's gone on in this administration?
The answer is that she can't. You know, there's only so long you can portray this facade that you have everything figured out. But what I hope to see happen sooner than later.
It's not even like she's trying to distance herself that much. Like she's saying like, oh, Bidenomics is working. Like she's not like trying to distance herself from Biden too much. I don't understand what this talking point is. A lot of people say it. Ben Shapiro said it a lot too.
Because the clock is ticking, is for the emotions to be removed from this election. Kamala could run her Ren and Stimpy, happy, happy, joy, joy campaign all she wants, which sounds strikingly similar to Hitler's strength through joy, but I'm not even going to get into that. But at some point, which will happen likely in this debate, is her policies have to be questioned. She can run on the joy campaign. Trump is the policy president. He addresses it head on, whether it's
Is he though? Is he? I don't know. I just watched the interview he did with Flex Friedman where he did not address any policy head on at all. And also his policy is dog shit. Like tariffs are dog shit. Ending the Fed's monetary independence is dog shit. That we were talking about that earlier, so that's what came to mind. But like the vast majority of his policy is dog shit.
It's
like,
easy or hard. Kamala can't even face the media. Her pre-taped lied to be what was a live interview on CNN. She couldn't even do it without her babysitter nearby. And she's an embarrassment to the country. And it's not because she's a woman, and it's not because she's a woman of color. I'm sure she's a lovely woman. And as a celebrity, she's quite entertaining. But presidentially, she would embarrass us on a global stage. She's embarrassing us domestically, and it would be disastrous. Everything he just said about Trump, I believe the same to Kamala Harris.
All right, Cenk Uygur, she's an embarrassing disaster. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing's been preposterous. Kamala Harris is a very standard, normal politician, and you guys are ignoring the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which is that Donald Trump is a lunatic. So you guys are having this conversation. This normal politician...
Listen, normally I don't side with Cenk that much, but,
oh my God,
but
she
holy
might
shit.
not be good enough. Wow, she's running with joy. That sounds like Hitler. All these kind of loony things that you guys are all saying. When the other guy's a lunatic. He thinks we should terminate the Constitution. He thinks that all of our crowds are AI-created images. He believes absolutely insane things. Thought that his vice president deserved to be murdered by his supporters. And we're having a nonsense conversation about Kamala Harris running with joy being a bad
dictator?
thing. And, guys, there's a lot of reasons that she does that. But one of the reasons is to juxtapose the hatred from the other side, which you guys are amply displaying. The other side's like, oh my God, everybody's the enemy. The immigrants are the enemy. The Democrats are.
God, you know, usually I don't like Cenk's rhetoric, like this very like I don't want to say hyperbolic, but like energized, like talk stuff he does, but when the other side is like so obviously making like absurd points, but
the enemy, oh, they're killing babies.
It was terrible when news when Trump said it, but celebrated when Kamala says it. I didn't celebrate when Kamala said it.
Talk. So go ahead, run your mouth about Kamala Harris. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump's still a lunatic, and the country doesn't want an unstable madman like that who doesn't even believe in America. He thinks we should terminate our Constitution. He had no problem trampling our democracy. I'm not letting that clown come in here and destroy this country.
All right, Vinny Oshana, he's a clown who'll destroy the country, an 800-pound gorilla. This is apparently these are the nice guys spreading joy.
Yeah,
well, you guys are super nice.
I have to say this, Piers. Emily, you kind of brushed over love, and I think you should have stayed on it. Emily's a Jewish girl, and she mentioned the strength through joy was 100% hijacked from the Nazis. It was in 1933. I have to read this. Hold on 1 second, guys. I actually want to read this because Emily's right.
See, like Cenk's strategy like works really well here because this guy's obviously insane.
The Nazi labor campaign of 1933. That's it. It was set up as a tool to promote the advantages of Nazism. So whoever's coming up with this joy campaign, they should do a little bit more research. And you know what? Instead of going Trump and talking bad about, I don't know Anthony, I know Cenk and I respect Cenk. We disagree politically, but let's talk about the actual State of the Union right now, Piers. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but an American Jewish hostage was murdered by Hamas. That just happened a couple days ago. And also, the Hells Angels are en route right now to Aurora, Colorado, to stop a Venezuelan brutal gang. And the gang is called Tren Aragua because they've taken over apartment complexes. They're sex trafficking women. They're doing drugs. The FBI's not doing nothing. The mayor's not doing nothing. The governor's not doing anything. Why is all this happening?
I think everyone here is
following. Because Joe Biden is on vacation. He's still on vacation. 40% of his administration. Kamala Harris is in a
I have not been able to find a source for that number, by the way. It went viral on Twitter, and nobody has provided a source. The Wikipedia shows he has less vacation time than Trump, but yeah, maybe Wikipedia is lying, and the fake number in Twitter is real. Who knows?
Going around with her support human being. Who's actually running the country right now? Everybody's worried about the future and Trump, and he's such a threat to democracy. Why did he do all that stuff in the 4 years that he was here? I'm genuinely curious. All this threat and all these problems. Name one thing that was, oh my God, a threat to democracy. What was it? And what is Kamala going to do? I want Anthony.
God, name one thing Trump did that was a threat to democracy. I think there was like, God, it's hard to remember, you know, it's so long ago, but like, I feel like was it, well, it was like September 6th or something, or like, God, I don't remember. Yeah, real hard one there, buddy. Real hard one there, buddy.
What's one thing? Hold on. What's one thing Kamala, people are going to vote for Kamala for? Anthony, just random. What are you going to vote for Kamala Harris for?
Vinny, you've asked lots of questions there. I would say clearly what happened personally on January the 6th was an attack on democracy.
Putin?
You know, when a very large mob of people attack the Capitol and start calling for lawmakers to be hung.
Well, is it Putin? It's not a they're an illiberal democracy, so procedurally they still have some democratic things.
Trying to reverse an election decision, that's an attack on democracy. You can spin it any way you like, but it is. But Anthony, let me ask the second part of that, because I'm sure he would say the same. Very interesting question Vinny raised there. Who is running the United States? You know, I felt very strongly when Kamala Harris effectively sailed through as the nominee. It was clearly a party machinery operation to get her the nomination as fast as possible. Would it not have been better for America if the Vice President of the United States, in that situation, who's now the official nominee, actually replaced Joe Biden as President of the United States? It's very, very odd as a non-American.
I thought I was going to say, like, have a open primary or whatever.
In August, to see endless pictures of Joe Biden on the beach and Kamala Harris meeting world leaders. It's very odd. It's strange. It doesn't seem to make any sense. Do you think it's right and proper what we're seeing now?
You want to care? I don't understand what you could possibly care about if trying to overturn an election is not something you care about. Kamala is one of us. She is fair. She is honest and fair, unlike the two-faced career politicians. Right.
Listen, what I think is right and proper is actually never going to happen. I have to deal with the world the way it is.
But what do you think is right and proper?
But
that implies
to answer Vinny's issue, okay, I don't like seeing what's happening.
Out of curiosity, you ever heard how he got wrong?
I saw Donald Trump in this situation.
How he said he got a lot of wrong people in the first time? Yeah. You know, do you know what he's referring to when he says that? Do you think he's referring to the Russian connection? That's not what he's referring to. What he's referring to is the people who stood up to him and wouldn't go on, wouldn't lie about the election, who wouldn't help him overturn the election. When he says, I got a lot of wrong people, he means people like William Barr, who resigned when Trump tried to get him to send a letter to state legislators saying that there was massive election fraud. He means people like Mike Pence that that stood up to him and didn't go through with his plan to not certify the election on January 6th. That's what he means. He's not talking about the Russian connection there. He's talking about people who didn't help him with J6. That's what he means by wrong people. Hate to break it to you, buddy.
And I understand the mechanisms of his personality.
Wait, yeah, he's going to have an entirely different cabinet this time. Why? Why is he going to have a different cabinet? Do you understand the reason he has a different cabinet is because most of his cabinet refuses to run with him again. Got a lot of smart. He's got a bunch of loyalists around him this time. He's asked people like J.D. Vance who say that he wouldn't have certified the vote on January 6th.
I would take a more garden variety politician who will follow the rules-based society. I don't want somebody that's currying favor with dictators. I don't want somebody that's going to roll back NATO. I don't want somebody that's going to let Vladimir Putin walk into the Ukraine. So that's me. That's what makes America great.
Can we challenge you on that?
That actually doesn't answer Vinny's question.
Emily, I'll come to you. But Anthony, hang on. Just on that point, Anthony, all I'm going to say is this. Trump didn't go into war with anyone in his 4 years, whatever you think of him. Putin didn't invade Ukraine or anywhere else on Trump's watch.
Okay.
Those things, they're just facts. And when it comes to rolling back NATO, I watched and listened very carefully, given that my country is part of NATO, to what Trump actually said. He wanted other member countries of NATO to pay their due. He was sick and tired of America.
Or else, first of all, they're under no obligation to pay that. That was just like a target goal. But he made like repeated fucking dumbass comments about NATO. Criticized NATO, threatened to pull out of the alliance. Hold on. This has at some point, yeah, Trump criticized NATO and alienated allies. This has a bunch of the statements that he made.
Having to pay the vast majority of the costs of NATO, and other countries won't pay much. By the way, on that, he was 100%.
Also, the U.S. has a comparative advantage in military spending, so we should be spending more. Hell yeah.
Right.
Mega base.
And many of those countries he castigated are now paying significantly more towards the cost of NATO as a result of what Trump did. So on those 2 points, I'm not so sure that you're on good ground.
Well, I think you got to give me a chance to respond, because this is what Trump does. He says two contrary things at the same time. His detractors hold on to one thing. His people that love him hold on to another thing, his advocates. And so he made it very clear to John Bolton. He made it very clear to General Kelly, Jim Mattis, Rex Tillerson, that he wanted out of NATO. He made it very clear. He slowed down the arms shipments to the Ukraine. In 1994, we cut a deal with them. They were the 6th largest nuclear arsenal in the world. We got the nukes back in exchange for security guarantees. He slowed down the arms shipments. There's irrefutable fact to that.
In exchange for...
which gave Vladimir Putin an open...
In exchange for soliciting information on the 2020 election, he literally got impeached for withholding the aid to Ukraine.
In the Ukraine. Moreover, he moved the embassy. The State Department asked him not to move the embassy in Jerusalem. He moved the embassy in Jerusalem.
Oh, true.
And you can't tell me that didn't lead to more funding for Hamas, because we know from our intelligence agencies that it did. So we can pretend that he didn't start any wars, but he doesn't understand the nature of the world. The State Department told him, don't go to North Korea. The guy's never given up his nukes. He said, no, I'm Donald Trump, the supreme narcissist. I'm going to North Korea. He's going to give up his nukes. Did he give up his nukes, Piers? This is insanity that we're talking about a guy that is this intellectually bereft running the country. So you got to.
But let me ask you, okay, but before I go to Emily to respond to that, hang on, before I go to Emily,
he's been very honest about it.
Who do you think? Okay, but here's a tough question for you before I go to Emily to respond. If you're Vladimir Putin, or you're Kim Jong-un, or you're President Xi, who are you going to be more or less intimidated by? Donald Trump or Kamala Harris?
Trump. There's no question Kamala Harris. It's not even close, because he wants to be them. He praises them. He solicits them. He tells Putin from a microphone like this, go ahead and invade the countries that are not spending 2% on NATO. You heard him say that.
Do whatever the hell they want.
No question.
I knew what he meant. What he meant was, if the member countries of NATO don't pay their dues, it is more likely that people like Putin will take advantage. That's what he meant. You know that.
It's a 2016 analysis, Piers. Your analysis is a 2016 analysis. He dupes people. He says two things at the same time that are quite contradictory.
All right, let me bring it
on both sides.
Let me bring in Emily.
And he denounces the Nazis.
Emily, you were holding your face in utter horror.
I know the playbook, Piers. I've been around it for a decade.
Okay, I saw Emily hold her head in horror as you said that the world's dictators will be more intimidated by Kamala Harris.
No question, because she's going to be with NATO.
Donald Trump has the spinal cord and the international respect that Biden in a million years can never achieve. Donald Trump had every world leader afraid of him. He just said, Anthony, that Donald Trump should not, excuse me, let me speak. You just said Donald Trump should not have gone to North Korea. If this man has international respect and can go build bridges overseas, he has every single right and a duty as our leader to do so.
Do we really want to be building bridges with North Korea? Also, he failed to build bridges with North Korea. He didn't do shit. He went to North Korea and got a photo op and then left. We didn't get any agreement or anything.
Oh, let me tell you something about Donald Trump. Like him or not, he is feared. And that is what we need when the world has gone mad and you have Putin's invading Ukraine and you have Hamas's attacking Israel and kidnapping 7 Americans that Biden failed, including, like Vinny just said, Hersh Goldberg Poland being murdered, with Hamas posting a video. And what is Biden's response? Netanyahu didn't do enough. Biden's only response should have been, Hamas will pay the price. Biden should have been more present, not on a beach, using Hersh's poor parents as political tools at the DNC, pretending he cares about the American hostages.
As much as I am the ultimate IDF Israeli defender shill, I think Biden's position has been for a ceasefire to release the hostages for like a few months now. Netanyahu has absolutely undermined that, because Netanyahu does not want to face prosecution if the war ends. So, I mean, coming from the position that we should have a ceasefire, they're kind of is reasonable there.
Not relaxing in Delaware. They should have been more pressure on Iran to put pressure on the proxies, more negotiations with Qatar. Instead, he's this weak leader. But you know what?
We're going to talk about Iran, or the fact that Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal.
I want to pause for a moment.
At all.
I'm blaming Joe Biden. I actually want to criticize the puppeteers that are controlling him, because I genuinely believe he has one foot in the grave. And that actually goes to a bigger problem, which is the entire Democratic Party. We don't know who's in charge. It is not Joe Biden, and it is surely as hell not Kamala Harris. So it goes back to Pierce's question, who is running the show, and how come we as the American people are not so outraged that this weakness is causing mass chaos, not just here, but all around the world? America is next. The West is the target. The Middle East is laughing at us right now because we have no leadership. Donald Trump would never let that happen.
Okay,
people respected him, and people feared him. And I don't care if you like him or not. It doesn't matter when you vote.
Let me bring in Cenk, who's been waiting with unusual patience, it has to be said. I put it down to you must have had a summer break of some description. It's calmed you a little bit. But be honest with me, Cenk. Do you really believe that when it comes to standing up to world leaders like Kim Jong-un, like Putin, like Xi and others, do you really believe that Kamala Harris is somebody that will exude an air on behalf of the United States that will be more intimidating to those guys than Trump would?
It's not even close, absolutely, and I'll tell you why. You guys are looking at it, it's like all of this foreign policy's emotional vibes in the room. And Kamala Harris walks in, and are they like, oh my God, I'm intimidated, or oh, it's no big deal. And Trump walks in, they're like, oh my God, I fear him. No, it's about what you're willing to do, your actions, your policies, etc. So what does Kamala Harris have? Kamala Harris has the might of the administrative state and the U.S. military behind her, and they know she's stable and she represents the general American establishment. Now, a lot of people might say, hey, I don't love the establishment, etc., but it isn't. fearsome entity. And everybody knows that a normal president of the United States speaks on behalf of that entity, and they fear that entity. When Donald Trump walks in the room, they're like, oh, thank God, what a clown. Okay, so easy to manipulate him. Here, let's tell him we like him. Hey, Donnie, we like you. You think, oh, I like you, I like you. I'm going to write love letters to you. So while he was literally, he said he was writing love letters to Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-un built 6 nukes. What happened, tough guy? You let him build all those nukes, you did nothing about it because you're an idiot, so easily manipulated. You think Putin doesn't know that? They do a meeting, Trump comes out, he's like, Putin is right, not our intelligence, the U.S. sucks, Putin is right. That weak guy that just cares about money. You know what he says about the Saudis? They give
See, his rhetoric is really good in this type of debate.
$40 million for an apartment. Shouldn't I like them? Obviously corrupt, easily manipulated, a tiny mind. He's done nothing but encourage our enemies by being so weak and such an obvious narcissist. Do you know how easily I could play that guy if I'm in a room with him? You just go tweak here, tweak there, and he's discombobulated, right? And if you're not going to do it by flattery, which is the easiest thing in the world, you just get under his skin a little bit. Hey, your hair doesn't look good. Oh, what? I'm going to attack you. I'm going to come on. This guy's a fool. Look, all of you know it. All of you know. That's why you're spending all your time going, oh, look at Kamala Harris. She's a slightly normal politician. Ooh, that's so scary. Come on. Piers, you're going to ignore the fact that the other guy is totally unhinged and the easiest man in the world to manipulate?
No,
like
listen, we've talked about Trump a lot. I've known, as Anthony and others, I've known Trump maybe 20 years, right? I've spoken to him many times, interviewed him 40 times. I know Trump very, very well. Good, bad, and ugly. And I think he has equal measures of all 3 of those things. But I think that your characterization of him is it's cartoonesque. And in a way that plays into
Trump. He is a cartoon character.
Well, maybe, but it plays into Trump's hands when you over-demonize him. You know, when I hear the left in America just ranting away about Trump morning and night, I think you're missing, you're playing him the wrong way.
Piers, he is that bad. He is that bad. You're
Piers,
actively
I want to meet Cenk in the
Piers, you know
middle.
what it is? Hold on. One more thing. You guys, you know what you sound like? You sound like Democrats that were saying that Joe Biden is young and dynamic behind the scenes. Guys, we have eyes and ears. We can see Donald Trump. He's an unhinged madman. The only reason you don't think so is because you're so biased that you're like, oh, it's normal to terminate the Constitution.
You're making
murder your vice
before I want to come to Vinny.
That's not normal.
Hang on, I want to come to Vinny. Well, I want to say once again, Cenk, you shouldn't misconstrue the fact I've known Trump a long time and say I see the good, bad, and ugly. You should never misconstrue this for me saying that Americans should vote for him or that I would vote for him, any of those things. You seem incapable of assessing the stuff that comes out of my mouth in an accurate way. You want to portray me as a diehard MAGA Republican. I'm not. People in England listening to this would laugh their heads off. I was editor of the Daily Mirror newspaper for 10 years. Huh?
Did you see your intro? It was 99% negative against Kamala Harris.
Well, no, it actually wasn't.
Every time I come on here,
exactly my point.
Totally in favor of Donald Trump.
It wasn't, but you didn't listen properly because all you want to hear is Trump bashing. Let me bring in Vinny. Vinny, look, Trump has got a bit of a problem here. There's no doubt the dynamic of this race changed dramatically. I spoke to Trump the night before it changed, which was a week after he got shot. He saw me on Fox saying how it was extraordinary that he was back on stage at another rally, and we had a perfectly nice conversation. And I said to him, I reckon you've got this election sewn up now because of this assassination attempt. And he went, let me tell you, if I've learned one thing over the last 3 weeks, it's that 4 months is a very long time. Anything could happen. And the next day, Joe Biden quit the race, and all the momentum has been behind Kamala Harris and the Democrats ever since. And I've detected with Trump that he's really struggled to work out how to attack the new threat. What do you think?
Well, I mean, and Cenk made a good point. That establishment, the problem is the establishment and Donald Trump, and I don't care how angry, how much hate Anthony has for him, because I mean, Anthony was fired, after 10 days, sounds like a bitter ex-employee. Cenk has Trump derangement syndrome, whether you like it or not, brother. They hate, what people like you don't tend to understand, Cenk, you know what people like you don't understand? Everybody is tired of that BS rhetoric. It's one man going against the establishment for us. And you know what, Piers, it's crazy. You mentioned the president of the ex-president of the United States was shot in the head. Okay, and then after a week, nobody was talking about it. The legacy media, mainstream
Nobody
media,
cares.
98%
Doesn't
of
make you a
it
good
is Trump
candidate.
is this evil
Nobody cares.
man. And there is a problem, Piers, because people are brainwashed into thinking it's all Trump. Because people like me and Emily know we're thinking even this is bigger than Trump. Okay, this is us against that establishment, Cenk, and it's never going to go away. And just to give you a little example, Piers, about how much these people have just hate and disgust for Trump. Last Monday, he was at Arlington National Cemetery. Okay, he was invited by Gold Star families of soldiers who were murdered in Afghanistan in 2021. They invited him.
Joe Biden.
They wanted photos. Guess what the media said? He's taking it. This is a campaign ploy and all this BS. You know who else was invited? Joe Biden was invited. Kamala Harris was invited, and none of them showed up. Biden was on the beach trying to use his cell phone, and Kamala was in her freaking.
It's not even true. This was literally like a oh God. I hope I can find I hope I bookmarked it. Trump campaign held a campaign event near Arlington National Cemetery. The idea was to lay a wreath honoring the 13 members of the U.S. military who were killed during the evacuation of Kabul in 2021 and film political ad. They would distribute the video and attack Vice President Harris and President Biden for not showing up to their campaign event, which they sought to portray an establishment memorial.
God knows how many $1 million mansion. Okay, guys, stop. Check this whole Trump talk. We're done with it. Okay, and if they didn't cheat, I know we're gonna get into Zuckerberg and FBI and Facebook. If they didn't cheat, you guys would be done with him in November. But that's
So as soon as the video circulated, military politics was announced. Right off the bat, they were shocked that the campaign had been allowed to hold a campaign event on the grounds of the cemetery to circulate the video of it. It's just unseemly. It's against the law. How were they allowed to do that?
system, that same establishment, we're just tired of it. We're tired of that system. And you're right, Piers. There is a problem because when 98% of the media is he's Hitler, he's this, he's evil, what else? FBI, he's going to use the FBI as a Gestapo. Are you freaking nuts? The FBI has been used as a Gestapo for the past 7 years against Donald Trump. Okay? And if it happened to him, I'm worried about the future of the Republican Party.
Right,
that's the real talk at the time.
Let me bring in Anthony here. Anthony, if you were running the Democrat campaign right now, you've got a bit of momentum with Kamala Harris, although probably not as much as you might have hoped in the polling from the convention, which was a coronation, really. But if you were looking at the key attack lines against Trump, what would they be? Would they be J.D. Vance? Would they be abortion? Would you play the women side of this strongly? Where do you think he's most vulnerable if you're running a Kamala Harris campaign?
Well, I think he's most vulnerable actually on policy, and I think that's going to be her Achilles heel. If she doesn't come out and start speaking about what her policies are and comparing them to his, and she doesn't speak about the 5.7 billion people that are under autocracy right now and what America represents, not only to the people here in the United States and around the world, that's going to be her Achilles heel. But I just want to briefly address what Vinny is saying. I don't hate Donald Trump. I was loyal to him. I got fired. No problem with the firing. I was loyal to him for 2 years after the firing. When he started attacking me personally for absolutely no reason, and then he went after my wife. I mean, Vinny's Italian. I don't know. Not allowed to go after my wife. I'm not Ted Cruz, and so I will work assiduously against him for the rest of my life. I think he's a disaster. But I got to tell you something. 2 years after my firing, I was loyal to the guy. You can go look at the tape. So I'm not a disgruntled employee. I see it for what it exactly is. I understand his systemic danger to the world, and I will sit here and advocate for anybody other than him. And if you guys put up Ron DeSantis, he probably have 50 points right now.
Well, Tony, just really fast. 4 years of Trump, beside personal stuff aside, put that all aside. I get it. I understand. 4 years of that, okay? And then this 4 years of Biden and the Democratic Party. I put all your feelings aside. And by the way, I'm Assyrian, I'm Middle Eastern, but I do look Italian. Thank you. 4 years of Trump, 4 years of this Democratic rule. Be honest with yourself and be honest with our viewers. Who would you vote for? You would want this past 4 years than Trump's 4 years? Are you kidding? Like,
obviously.
Put all that personal stuff aside. Come on, man.
Anthony,
I'm a lifelong Republican. I'm a center-right Republican. He does not represent that. It's ironic because Cenk and I are on the same side of this thing. Okay, I'm a center-right Republican. Love debating him when we're not dealing with Donald Trump. To his point, Donald Trump is a raving lunatic. He's an extremely dangerous person. You don't want him anywhere near the White House. You've only got two choices. I'm going with Kamala Harris. If you guys want to put up Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley in 2028, I'll return to my party and I'll do anything I can to help them. But I'm not helping this guy because I know how dangerous he is. I know how bad he is. And just to point out, because you guys were talking about North Korea and he has the right to go to North Korea, actually we had a 60-year established policy to curb it. All he did was give the North Korean dictator propaganda reels play inside and outside of his country for the last 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
So Vin, I hear you.
Propaganda dipshits like these people who argue that it was a good thing.
I don't see him as Ted Cruz. And by the way, I'm not Ted Cruz. Okay, I'm an Italian kid from Long Island. Don't go after my wife on Twitter after I gave you $1 million of cash and hundreds of hours of media advocacy. No way, no how.
Okay.
And I will be pounding him into the ground until November 6th.
It's just not.
Let me bring in Emily.
Okay,
Emily, let me tell you something.
No, the problem is that,
you make
again,
the
there's too
election
much
about what you
emotion.
want it to be. I'll make it about what I want it to be.
The election is not about happy, happy, joy, joy. This is our security on the line. This is the future of the United States. Vinny posed a very simple question. This is a bizarre election. We've had 4 years of Donald Trump. It's not his first time. He doesn't need to tell us what he's going to do. We've already seen what he's capable of doing. We've seen the stability in our country, the stability in our economy. Biden did so well fixing that. This is not a joke. Everyone's treating this election like it's Hollywood. They don't understand. We need closed borders. We need controlled spending. We need security. We need laws to become
controlled spending like Trump did with his tax cuts, and like he plans to do even more of. If he plans to do even more tax cuts. The only way he wants to raise revenue is with tariffs, which is like the most regressive way to raise revenue ever, and it has a lot of other negative effects. It's inflationary. It doesn't even protect American jobs particularly well. Yeah.
Laws again, this lawlessness going around the country and the crime surge is being tolerated. What's happening on college campuses, what's happening internationally. You guys really sitting here telling me that Kamala Harris is going to be respected by international leaders has me laughing out loud. I'm not what you're saying I am, Cenk. I'm not obsessed with Donald Trump, and I do not hate Kamala Harris. I do not believe she's presidential. Somebody please tell me why I'm wrong. Somebody tell me what policies she will instate that will make this country.
There's some about policy. I don't understand the unpresidential argument. Oh, 19 minutes ago. Oh, it's only 24 minutes. Okay, good. We can milk this for React content too. Hell yeah. Get it out immediately. Which
by the way, when Obama went
person
on TV
sounds more
to match
presidential
up Trump's
here?
Speech about al-Baghdadi with Obama's about bin Laden, and we were right, it was.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead.
The United States launched a targeted operation against that compound.
They did a lot of shooting, and they did a lot of blasting, even not going through the front door. You know, you think you go through the door. If you're a normal person, you say, knock, knock, may I come in?
After a firefight, they killed Osama bin Laden and took custody of his body.
He died like a dog.
Just like
country
I
a better
wonder,
place
man.
than where Trump.
Trump is funnier. Yeah, that's not a good thing. It's not something you should want in a president. When it's funnier because he sounds retarded in it.
Trump had it before Biden was president. Someone answer that simple question. She's a great woman. I love you, Kamala Harris. Don't run for president. What are you going to answer now?
Not? Because it's just not it's just not presidential. That's not what I want in a leader of the United States. I don't want them going up saying, knock, knock, may I come in? I can't believe they didn't go through the front door. That doesn't really show intelligence. It doesn't really show good leadership.
And then come
It
back
shows you're a
in a
retard.
moment. But first of all, Cenk, let me ask you. It's an interesting point about Kamala Harris. I know what Trump stands for. You know, his messaging, he's a very skilled marketer. We know he's about build the wall, make America great, all these other things. He rattles off his greatest hits at every rally. I'm really not sure what Kamala Harris stands for. And after that interview with CNN, and it's no fault of Dana Bash, who I used to work with. I've got great respect for her.
I feel like, listen, when she started her campaign, that was kind of true. You know, she didn't have a lot of policy positions. I feel like by now there's a decent number of policy positions that that is criticism is becoming more unfair. Like she said, she gave her whole fucking economic platform. Her economic platform is more clear than Trump's economic platform. What is Trump's economic platform? All Trump has said is tariffs, but he hasn't even said how much in tariffs. We don't know. It's somewhere between 60% and 50% on China, and somewhere between I think in one interview he said 10% for all goods, but he's not been very clear on that. Show room for Prez, true. Mr. Beast for president. Why do you think he'll do it now? After all the scandals came out. Kamala's been more clear about our economic platform than Trump has. I guess Trump wants to stop outsourcing via tariffs. But.
As a journalist, it's not her fault, but Kamala Harris didn't lay out any plan for the country. And if I was a Democrat, I'd be really worried about what's going to happen at the debate if it gets into the meat and drink of policy.
I literally don't understand you guys. So Kamala Harris is the most normal politician of my lifetime. And you guys keep
True.
saying, look at her, she's so weak, she's so this, she's so...
What does she stand for,
any
Cenk?
of that.
What does she stand for?
What does she stand for?
Yeah,
and you guys talk about, can I answer the question?
Yeah,
can
give me
I
three
answer?
things she stands for.
So, yes,
She's saying,
so
we got
she's
it, she's
announced
saying.
them. Okay, so number one, she talked about housing, which is a huge issue in this country.
True.
If you block the private equity guys from buying our homes, that would be a massive gain for
Okay,
the
well,
American
that's
people.
like
What's Donald Trump's housing policy?
the weakest. It's like the weakest part of her housing policy, in my opinion. But yeah, she does also want to build 3 million new homes and tear down a lot of red tape that restricts building. But yeah, I guess there's that too.
Drill,
Sure.
baby, drill. That has nothing to do with housing. He's such a moron. Okay, then you talk about the prices were out of control. She says, hey, we should have a check on that. That is your grocery store, your gas, etc. Things that matter in your life. She at least has a policy. What's Trump's policy? I'm going to give corporations another tax cut. Well, listen, you were in office for 4 years, to Vinny's point. And what did you do? You didn't even build a wall. You built 30 feet of wall. He remembered at the last second. The main thing he did was he took corporate tax rates from 35% to 21%. He gave trillions of dollars to his corporate donors. The problem with the establishment is that they work for those donors. Well, how about Trump? He says, Sheldon Adelson, Miriam Adelson, I'll just give you U.S. foreign policy on Israel, and you said it, and he brags about it. He says, oil companies, I'll let you set oil policy. He is so both systemically, and personally corrupt. He's the worst of all worlds, and Kamala Harris has these policy positions you guys never talk about while you pretend that Trump has policy. Trump's only policy is another corporate tax cut, down to 15%, so they can keep robbing us.
Cenk, why can't she sit down one-on-one and have a conversation without another human being next to her to help her out and make her feel comfortable? She doesn't have any policies, Cenk. This is the establishment that you were talking about. They want to keep us like this. Cenk, the average American that doesn't know about politics, that doesn't listen to panels like this, what they're feeling, their gut, their paycheck, their security, the border.
Also abortion. She's been very clear on abortion. I mean, it's kind of obvious, she's a Democratic candidate. She's going to be pro-abortion. But a lot of the messaging has been about abortion. She's obviously more
who's in charge.
pro-choice than Trump.
That this past 4 years has been a complete shit show, Cenk. And you're educated. For you to say Kamala Harris has Cenk, either somebody's paying you, because you're smart, Cenk. I say it again.
Vinny,
I respect the hell out of you. Somebody has to be paying people because you don't have no policies on her. Nothing that she's saying is valid or it's going to happen, Cenk. They've had 4 years to do it.
Just to jump in, I actually do think that, as Bill Clinton, rightly said, these things usually come down to the economy, these elections. I do think the economy is going to be a massive factor. I think when that debate happens on the 10th, Americans will tune in huge numbers. I reckon it'll break all records. And they'll look at those two candidates and they will ask themselves one question. The majority of Americans who are feeling the pinch. Which one is going to be better for my economy, my personal family economy? And I think as things stand, unless she can turn that around, Cenk, I say this very respectfully to your position on this, I think that more people at the moment will associate Trump with the economy potentially growing better under him and her. I might be wrong, but I suspect that's what that debate will
grew faster
unravel.
under
Thank you to my
Biden.
panel. You've all been terrific. I'm joined in the studio.
I understand a lot of the people.
Author of the new book On the Edge, the art of risking everything. I'm sorry. Nate Silver, great to see you.
Absolutely, man. It's been a while.
I don't even know, have we ever met in person? I've been with you many times.
CNN back in the day, 10, 12 years ago. Yeah, I remember that stuff.
Yeah. I remember interviewing a lot. You were normally so busy you couldn't come in. You've written this great book, The Art of Risking Everything on the Edge. And I'll come to that in a moment. But first of all, you're the founder of 5830, one of the great polling companies in the world, particularly for American politics. Where are we now with this election, do you think?
If you had the election today, then Harris would have a slight edge. But A, the election's not today, and B, we have to remember the Electoral College. She is up right now by 3.5 points or so in national polls. There's been about a 2.5 point gap, though, 3-point gap between the popular vote and the Electoral College. So she'd probably have to win by 3.5 to be safe in the Electoral College. Secondly, she may be on a little bit of a sugar high after the convention, after the VP picks, everything else. So our model has the November outcome basically 50-50, despite the fact that she's ahead by a small amount today.
Is it always around 50-50 now in America? In other words, is it going to come down, as always, to 40, 50, 60,000 votes?
We are so polarized. We're not going to have elections like you have in the UK, where you have big swings between Labour and Tories. If 90% of people are locked in already, and we saw when Biden was 82 years old, trying to run for president until he was 86, and plainly unable to execute, he still was only 4 points behind Trump.
Right.
And look, if you had a Nikki Haley, it might be a wider margin still. But the party label is all that matters for the large majority of American voters.
Trump, it's believed at the moment, has the edge with men, American men. Yeah. Is that enough to get him over the edge? He also had rising support with Latinos and Black Americans. Kamala Harris, as a Black woman nominee, has paid back a little bit of that, it seems. What's the reality there?
I mean, the electorate is 51% women, 49% men. Women are more reliable about most things, including voting. It was funny that in her convention speech, not funny, but interesting, it was targeted at male voters, right? She had a line about AI, which is a very male-coded thing. She talked about military strength and competition with China, which I thought was smart. I mean, a lot of Democrats try to play to their base, but their base is actually not as large as it used to be. You see, for example, younger voters of color are now maybe more agnostic or neutral about who they might want to vote for. Hispanic voters have gone back to being more 50-50. And so, yeah, I think she was smart to go after men who are obviously a GOP-leaning group in this dynamic.
Kamala Harris was pretty unpopular before all this last 2 months of extraordinary developments. Has she got genuinely more popular, or is it that the Democrats have seized a bit of momentum from it not being the old guy?
Enthusiasm can go a long way and kind of fake it till you make it, but she's also gotten a lot of reps in, spending 4 years touring the world. I mean, remember, all the natural politicians. Bill Clinton, natural politician, well, not really. His first DNC speech in 1988 was a laugher, a disaster. Barack Obama got decimated in his first his first congressional election in 2000 on the south side of Chicago. So you can get better. I feel like the Biden people also were holding her back. I mean, they were very aware that if you have this talented understudy, when you're 82 years old, and she were allowed to kind of be herself, I mean, the obvious thing would be to hand her the time without all this drama that actually unfolded. And so, free of the Biden burden, free of, I think also in 2020 when she ran, this was kind of peak, if you will, like wokeness in American society, where there was very little about race and gender in that convention speech. She did not use the word black even once. She used the word woman only once, because she knows that Americans actually selling yourself as race blind. Of course, it's implicit in the presentation. It would be historic first, but I think she's been smarter about that.
I agree with that. Unlike Hillary Clinton, who
put it very
talked endlessly about the glass ceiling and everything else.
Yeah, she had Chelsea Clinton introduce her. I think she way overestimated how much love America had for the Clinton dynasty. That was more a negative than a positive, and she treated it like a coronation.
What are Kamala Harris's big potential pitfalls, do you think?
Well, you mentioned the economy.
I think that's going to be more important than people realize.
Yeah.
Simply because so many Americans, I mean, Anthony touched on the job losses under Trump. It was obviously pandemic, and we had a massive
Americans don't even rate their own financial situation particularly bad. They do rate the overall state of the economy bad. Although that is shifting a little bit. The Vive session is ending. But they rate their own economic situation pretty good.
We've had various wars erupt. All of that put together
I have a
put a
graph
real
for it
burden
somewhere.
on many American family pockets.
For sure, and look, the jobs market is good. It's a mixed picture. The stock market has been good, but take-home pay has not been particularly good. Inflation has abated, but people still remember things are a lot more expensive than they were, 4 years ago. Ironically, being distanced from Biden, people give her less responsibility, and she'll say, we have to turn around the problems of the past 10 years. Like, okay, who was president for the last 4 years of those 10?
Yeah, here we go. This was from a little bit ago, so who knows if it changed. Yeah, but American economy, most people don't rate it pretty good, but they do rate their own financial situation good or very good, the majority of people.
But so far that message has worked a little bit. The border is a problem. Americans are concerned about immigration. Biden could still be a problem. If he has some senior incident, for example, the media, since the horse race part has been resolved, has not covered his age as much. But if there's some crisis that unfolds again in the Middle East or on the stock market or anything else, then he'll be back in the spotlight, and that might be a risk for her.
Well, this is why I'm surprised that the Democrats haven't actually tried to maneuver it so that he stands aside and Kamala Harris is the president, because it would be helpful to her to be the incumbent president, I think. But secondly, if there is a major
I mean, the issue is if she messes up as president, everyone's going to remember that, because we'll only have been president for fucking 90 days or whatever.
Really substantial.
That's kind of high risk.
Cannot cope with it. it's all going to fall negative.
And also, this allows Kamala Harris to focus on campaigning rather than being president and campaigning, which would be harder.
On her.
Well, and further, I mean, talk about governance and not elections for a second, right? There's a new book out on nuclear war that details the American command and control system. If you get the 3 a.m. phone call from North Korea, the president of the United States has 6 minutes de facto to decide whether to launch back, which will determine the fate of the free world, in fact, the entire world, pretty much. If Joe Biden only has 6 hours of uptime a day, it's like not like North Korea's going to politely only launch a nuclear weapon or a false alarm. That's the important thing. It could easily be a false alarm. There have been false alarms in that 6-hour span. And so yeah, I don't know why I thought he had an effective 2 years, got a lot done in the first 2 years with Democratic Congress. I don't know why he wouldn't step aside. I think they're afraid to admit defeat or admit failure.
It is strange that he's there on the beach as president of the United States and she's de facto in charge.
I think he feels like he was underestimated, right? Underestimated by the media in 2020. And once you have that and you have that chip on your shoulder that I beat expectations, then it's very hard to get you to ever lose that ego boom.
I mean, obviously, the Trump win in 2016, I'll be quite smug for a moment because I was writing and saying on air, I think Trump's going to win. When nobody thought that was going to happen, your polling didn't suggest it was going to happen.
Well, I'm a modeler, so our model had Trump at 30%, which is way above the betting odds, right? So I'm a gambler at heart. And if you can get Trump at 6-1, which was a market price, and our odds say 3-1, then I'm a gambler. I bet on Trump, and you would have made a lot of money that way. But for sure, lots of people did not see it coming, and you had to kind of like detach yourself from the narrative to even give it a possibility of a chance.
How accurate is your polling these days, do you think?
So the polling, and what we do is aggregate other people's polls.
Yeah.
We don't have to do polls ourselves, thankfully.
Yeah.
The polls were.
But yours carry great weight and influence. People think they're extremely credible, obviously. A lot of attention.
Well, this is why the problem. If Kamala Harris, let's say she's up, Pennsylvania's probably a key state, right? Let's say she's up by 2 points in every poll of Pennsylvania on election day on November 5th. That's probably only a 60-40 chance of winning, right? So our job is to set realistic odds based on what the polls say. It's not like a football match. If it's 2-1 Arsenal at the end of full time, right? Arsenal has won. It's like they have an audit period afterward, like, oh, actually that goal that we thought they scored didn't actually count, and the refereeing was biased, and we missed this other goal that Liverpool scored, whatever else. And so
I think it's a good analogy. I mean, I'm an Arsenal fan, and if the odds, you could ask me what the odds on us beating whoever it is, Tottenham next week away, and I'd say pretty damn good, but it doesn't mean to say they're going to. But yeah, I would have factored in everything I know about my team, and it would make perfect sense what I'd say.
Well, and remember, there are things that are kind of quasi-random events in politics. I mean, Trump, thank goodness for the direction the United States would have taken, chose to look aside at like a billboard of immigration data when a shot whizzed and hit his ear.
What would have happened if it had killed him?
I don't know. I mean, it's a cliche to say civil war, but violence, I don't think we'd actually have a civil war, but violence tends to beget violence. I mean, that would have been very, very, very bad.
Yeah, I think so. Let's turn to your book, On the Edge, The Art of Risking Everything. I completely buy into this, by the way.
I don't care about his new book. Donald Trump's life was saved by racism. Racism saves lives. True. What an important lesson that we can all learn from this.